So today we're talking about a topic that is widely talked about by the mainstream media, and basically makes EV fires look like a very real issue when it really is not. So here is the data basically. So you've probably seen the headlines and the sensationalist stories, but let's actually go into the data from some of the most credible places that you can get the data from. So firstly, the numbers reveal EVs are 20 times less likely to be a part of a fire. That's something that you might hear on YouTube, on things like websites where they talk about EVs and electric cars and that sort of thing. But again, that's not data. That's not proof or evidence. That's just somebody saying a thing that sounds too good to be true, I think, really. So recent data shows that EVs are statistically less likely to be involved in vehicle fires compared to hybrids, internal combustion engine vehicles. And at the end, I'll also list off a few really interesting facts. So, according to a 2022 study by Auto Insurance EZ, or EZ because it's an American company, a very, very big company that publishes their data, for every 100,000 vehicles, there are about 25 EV fires and 3,475 hybrid fires and 1,530 internal combustion engine vehicle fires. So completely petrol, completely diesel. So clearly EVs are at the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to fire incidents. So when we compare their data, we also see that out of 25 total EV fires, only 5 of those happened when the vehicle was parked. So that kind of, you could say that this is not a large enough number to give a statistic that you could say is absolute proof of the next thing I'll say, but basically it does sort of suggest that 20% of the total of EV fires are when the car is parked, from those 25 there. But actually there are other statistics that kind of show a similar number. On the other hand, internal combustion engine vehicles had a total of 31% of their car fires when the car was, or the vehicle was parked. 31% when it was parked. So why does it feel like we hear about EV fires all the time? There's actually kind of a bit of an innocent reason to this, and then there's a more crapper answer, really, and not a very nice answer. So the answer lies, I think, in the way that mainstream media works. Sensational stories attract more attention and drive more clicks, basically. So your time means they can make more money. And so when an EV catches fire, it is still relatively rare, and so that rarity inherently makes that a more valuable story. Just, it's the exact same with a plane crash. So that is why you hear about them more. Also, there is also the agenda, isn't there? So a lot of people don't like cars that come from China because they're Chinese, and the West don't like China, so therefore they want to talk about an EV fire, and it happens to just always be a Chinese EV. And so that's what's going on, of course. So there aren't many times on a yearly basis that the mainstream media can use a story of a car that catches fire that is an EV. It's just not as possible to do as a hybrid or a petrol car or a diesel car. Now let's talk about the credibility of the data. So the numbers I mentioned come from comprehensive research and reports from very reliable sources like the National Fire Protection Association. They have been going for a long time, and various insurance companies that track these incidents meticulously, such as Auto Insurance EZ, which you can't really argue these are not credible people. They've got no reason to lie, no agenda other than providing themselves and everyone else with pretty reasonably concise data that's easily readable to a lay audience, and the data says what it is. And you have to agree, the data that they say that they give out doesn't fit the modern narrative that EVs are significantly more dangerous. They have more fires, and the fires they have are terrible. The data just doesn't show that. It's actually quite the opposite. So I think understanding the data and where it's come from helps us keep a really balanced perspective, while any vehicle fire is a concern of any sort. It is worth investigating. Look at it is essential to look at the broader picture and not to be swayed by these isolated incidents that are hyped up by the mainstream media. We now know that EVs are less likely to start a fire and set alight whilst being parked. I think it's like 20% of them, when they are parked, they're being charged, and that sparks their fire off, as an interesting little statistic, and are significantly less likely to be involved in a fire at all by one hell of a margin. Really, one hell of a margin. So, what are your thoughts on this? Have you got any thoughts on this? Have you come across any really interesting stories, sensationalist stories? Stories that made you question the safety of electric vehicles. So let me know in the comments below, and also don't forget to like and subscribe, because it's free and it helps my channel grow, basically. So just to throw it in, manufacturers like Tesla, Nissan, GM, they've been implementing really advanced battery management systems and rigorous testing protocols to ensure that they've got basically the highest safety standards, or some of the highest safety standards. For example, Tesla's batteries are designed with multiple layers of safety measures to prevent overheating and fires, basically. This is also one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons I'm constantly chirping on about, all cars that you buy should come with, liquid cooling technology to extract the heat out of the battery, and then they should use the air conditioning to cool, get rid of it and get it out of the car, out of the batteries. That is a very important thing, but also for the longevity of the battery cells themselves. Also, LFP chemistry is really taking off these days, because it is, by a country mile, the safest chemistry out there that is really purchasable and viable for manufacturers to use mass scale right now. So just to check out some other interesting facts and figures for you, like I said at the beginning, fewer than 500 EV battery fires, so not car fires, battery fires, have ever been verified globally, worldwide. Also, you have to acknowledge the difference between a vehicle fire and a battery fire. There is a bit of a distinction there that is known by the NFPA, and typically fire people, when they turn up at a place to put a car out on fire, they will determine whether it's the battery or the car itself that's set on fire. So whether something happened from a tail light and that sets it on fire, or is it the battery? Basically, there is a difference, and they want to know if it's the battery or if it's the car itself and something else, as they do with petrol cars and diesel cars. For example, one of the most I think it was brake fluid and the catalytic converter are the two things that cause most petrol vehicle fires. Really interesting to know, but they want to know that to see if there's something needs to be fixed there. Electric car fires accounted for only 0.4% of total car fires in Norway over a 2-year period, or 2-and-a-bit-year period, actually. Electric vehicles are 20 times less likely to catch fire than ICE vehicles. Approximately 60% of EV fires are caused by the battery because of thermal runaway, which can almost always be avoided with two things, basically. If you use LFP chemistry and the air conditioning and liquid cooling to cool the batteries down, can almost always be avoided. 218 Tesla car fires were confirmed from 2013 to the beginning of this year in February 2024, so 200 and something cars. A diesel car started a fire at the airport, Luton, in London, in the UK, in October 2023. That damaged 1,500 vehicles in total. This was widely reported constantly for a matter of a week, in a couple of weeks, almost daily, and it basically turned out not to be an electric vehicle. It was a diesel car, and then they stopped reporting on it. So here I am a year later talking about it. Data highlights that actually Hyundai and Kia vehicles, they're more likely to catch fire, not Chinese vehicles. Chinese vehicles are statistically better, as they often come with LFP chemistry, which has helped their statistics probably. So the Chinese EV thing, that's a myth, basically. For those of you that are new to the channel, I'm Ben Alexander, and I make EV news videos every day, so please do feel free to subscribe, put your thoughts in the comments below.